Hey guys, welcome back to the Casual NBA Fanatic podcast. Now today we're in a new setup today, just a different room in the house. Obviously we have a bit more of a background of sort of a decoration kind of going on behind us, but again, we're going to be churning out a few more episodes as we try to look towards the postseason now. Maybe try to do 2 to 3 episodes a week. And really in today's episode, I wanted to cover two things. One, storyline, just overall in towards around the league. A big discussion point. And the second part I wanted to go on to was a game from today's slate. So those 2 points are going to be Cade's MVP legitimacy and then also just the Battle of LA, just the LA derby that we saw today. And just what we kind of take note from both of those sort of points, just my perspective overall. In terms of Cade's MVP, all the discussions around it. So at the moment, Cade is 4th currently in MVP voting. Number 1, SGA. Number 2, Nikola Jokic. 3, Luka. And then we have Cade at 4. And the thing is, it's just hard picturing Cade hoisting the trophy at the end of the year purely because of the actual talent gap between him and the guys above him. Cade's averaging 26, 6 rebounds, 10 assists on 51% effective field goal percentage. A generational floor-raising prospect right now who's really entering those truly like superstardom-esque years right now. He's carrying the Pistons squad and their whole half-court offense. They're 41-13 at this point in time. He's currently 4th on the MVP ladder. And with Jokic and SGA both on games watch compared to Cade Cunningham in terms of the injury risk, more so obviously Nikola Jokic. But SGA we've seen with the abdominal strain. We don't know if he's going to be... we don't know if he's actually going to be able to meet the 65-game requirement. He might be a 2-week injury off when he comes back of being out of the race, and then it's fully Cade's for the taking at that point. And really, his only trouble will be Luka Dončić. And I just think the record gap between both of those guys, as we are just scoping in on the regular season, that matters a lot. So I'd honestly take Cade over Luka in this standpoint too. But like the guy's case is pretty strong. Like we come back from All-Star break, and obviously he played his guts out in All-Star. It was really nice to see. But then he comes back against really their rivals at the moment, New York, and they've just absolutely dogged New York every single game this season. He just dropped 42 points, 8 rebounds, and 13 assists. He took 34 shots in a blowout win against New York. Like, in terms of the actual floor raising and the amount of load carrying that this guy is exhibiting right now, it's pretty tremendous. I think his case is pretty fucking solid. Like, he has to be a top 3 candidate right now. Again, as far as wins record and then the load you are carrying for that team, those are the 2 biggest pillar points for me that create an MVP case. And then you can go into the things like how sustainable offensively, your efficiency as well, maybe your off-ball gravity, your versatility as well. All that stuff goes into it. But the main 2 pillars are your team success, but also just the load that you are carrying, how reliant your team actually is on you, especially when it comes towards the half court and the on-ball duties, which are the most invaluable traits that every team has to designate to a real star. That's why Cade Cunningham, off just a tremendous season right now. I know the production numbers won't be too glamorous compared to last year, but in terms of just how he's actually contributing to true top-tier winning in the regular season, he's actually been just absolutely incredible. And I think Detroit, as just not a low market as such team, but just obviously a poor franchise over the past 10, 15 years. Landing Cade Cunningham in that draft has been absolute godsend for them. And just he's an aggressive player. He's highly physical as well. He has enough traits with the agility, the balance, the over-the-top advantages. He's going to have such an extended career in Detroit. Probably could turn out to be the greatest player in Detroit basketball's history. Maybe over Isaiah Thomas. I don't know if this team exactly will be able to churn out titles like that team did, but obviously Cade's just on a enormous run right now, and this is one of the best individual seasons in Detroit Pistons history right now. Top 3 MVP to me at this point in time, and I think by the end of it, Jokic might have to bow it out with the injuries at some point, and he doesn't have much of a cushion to lay on. I think we could be really looking at him coming up second, and who knows what happens to SGA. So that hits off that point. Second of all, I wanted to go into the Battle of LA that we just saw today. Now, the season record between these two teams is 2-2, obviously. And obviously in this one as well, the Clippers were pretty undermanned talent-wise. We know after the James Harden trade went down, he's obviously out of the picture here. He's a big part of the firepower advantage that they might have been able to have, especially when Reaves was out and LeBron was getting back into things. But really just relying on purely Kawhi Leonard in this one really was a pretty rough ask for them. And then obviously Kawhi exiting the game with 5 minutes left, really just left crunch time. Kawhi said this would have been an absolute game. I actually thought the Clippers were going to have the momentum to go into it, but we didn't get to see the full healthy ending of this game. But regardless, Kawhi Leonard just put on another scorcher and kind of just, again, just cementing game by game. Like, this dude might legitimately be like a top 10 player in the league once again, like cemented, like inarguably a top 10 player in the NBA right now. He's been a top 5 player in the league over the past 2 months. Don't even get me started on the All-Star game performance as well. That was absolutely tremendous. But in terms of just how excellent he was actually just creating all of their scoring fuel in the second and third quarters of this game as well, absolutely tremendous from this one. And we talk about like the most glamorous players to watch, like Kawhi Leonard. A 30-piece from Kawhi Leonard is one of the most elegant things that you are ever going to watch. And take today by example, just the amount of tough shot making, but he actually can stabilize this tough shot making more than guys like Kevin Durant can because he's so strong, methodical, hunting those shots. Again, today was just the same as usual. Face-up game, post-up game, pure just mismatch, relentless mismatch hunting, whether it was DeAndre Ayton, whether it was Luke Kennard, Luka Dončić. He was having his way on Marcus Smart in the first 3 quarters before Marcus Smart really turned things up defensively. But, you know, first half, like in the second quarter, was just punishing Luka's passing lane gambles continuously, badly timed help gambles from Marcus Smart too that gave Kawhi Leonard a lot of these, you know, avenues of airspace too. But with Kawhi, just everything is so structured scoring-wise. Like when he creates those jump shots, there isn't much variance. It's really just he's getting into his patented movement structure from his feet to his balance to his follow-through. It's absolutely amazing to watch. And my favorite shot of tonight wasn't just the, you know, dead eye straight on top of the key threes that he was nailing. It was a corner 3 that he bumped Reaves off of. That was just absolutely beautiful. I think the Clippers, I think it was Kawhi that might have missed the initial 3. They get the offensive rebound. Kawhi spots up in the corner, receives it, and then Reaves closing out to him. He offers him a huge bump to the shoulder, really just discards the actual closeout momentum by any means. And, you know, just the release structure as well. It's so contained away from contest. It's like kind of boxed in like a square motion. It's not like your traditional flowing out motion. I don't know. It's just absolutely beautiful to watch. And to be honest with you, like, you're not going to find just many more capable, consistent, playoff resilient jump shooters in NBA history than what we have seen from Kawhi's entire career. And obviously from today's game, like, again, if he was able to play in the clutch time, I reckon this one would have gone down straight to the wire. I know it kind of did, but in terms of the firepower disadvantage that the Clippers were having, we probably didn't see much of an avenue for the Clippers to create the clutch offensive fuel that they needed to overcome what the Lakers could. But Kawhi was absolutely fantastic in this one. And on a back-to-back, I know he left with ankle soreness, but on a back-to-back to look this aggressive for the majority of an entire game, like, this is not what we would have envisioned that we would have seen last season. So absolutely incredible. I think Clippers fans have a lot to be confident about for next season, especially because I'm a big believer in what Darius Garland can do in terms of actually reducing the workload that a guy like Kawhi Leonard has to actually use. And Kawhi, again, he's not a guy that really just thrusts a bunch of rim pressure on opposing defenses. Darius Garland is that type of offensive player. I think they're going to blend absolutely perfectly next year. Again, if both of these guys can stay healthy. The other storyline as well, like, we're just going to run through the Clippers' perspective as well, because there's a lot to be happy about from the Clippers for this game individually. But Kris Dunn and Brook Lopez, just defensively, I know Derek Jones Jr. was also pretty good defensively in this one too. But Brook's, like, hand activity up at the level was a real problem for the Lakers. I think it forced about 3 turnovers in the second half alone. We talk about that recovery block as well against slower guards for Brook Lopez, like that chase down block against Austin Reaves, who was coming down to snake the pick and roll. Brook Lopez, he hits the spin move as well. He can get away with that spin move towards the recovery against a slower guard like Reaves. If it's a guy like Anthony Edwards or a guy like Tyrese Maxey, he's got no chance of even getting anywhere near a contest. A guy as methodical as Austin Reaves, you can have that extra split second to spin and rotate. Brook Lopez, we've always talked about him, how it looks like his feet are in mud when he's changing directions as well as that drop defender. But he's actually done a really exceptional job, like a subtly exceptional job, moving from Milwaukee now to the Clippers at just increasing the foot speed and just the overall mobility that he has. Like even just stunting and like tagging guys on the perimeter as well. Like it's just a lot more fluid now. And he's going to have to take on a huge role now that Zubac is fully out the window. And I just thought it was a great game from Brook Lopez as well. Just a ton of activity, ton of veteran activity. And he's a pretty sustainable rim protector still. And one thing that like we can't forget about this guy, like I genuinely thought Brook Lopez should have won Defensive Player of the Year in 2023, just 3 years ago, over Jaren Jackson Jr. That was that season. But this guy is one of the best rim protectors just in general from the 2020s. And like, I know he's old as hell and he's unathletic still as hell too. And obviously this isn't really, his defense isn't getting better, but obviously in a game like this against methodical guards, you can see how he can actually disrupt them, just sticking to general principles that are in his control, like using your accurate hand activity as well up at the level when you don't have the foot speed advantages to keep up. So it was a great game from Brook Lopez. Kris Dunn, though, obviously he got bullied towards the end by Luka, and Luka was talking the entire time, but Kris Dunn's just ball denial the entire game, just hassling at the base and hassling the dribble the entire game for Luka. And we know the Clippers were allowing them to switch a ton in the first quarter. That's what teams kind of usually do. Like a traditional scheme nowadays is to switch a lot of stuff as well, especially with how great of athletes are in today's game. But Luka was just destroying any switch in that first quarter. He had 17, just absolutely just destroying them. And I just thought when you let Kris Dunn just chase over the top continuously, like you can actually live with that because he's that talented and his motor is that extensive. And so just an exceptional game, just staying attached in full focus the entire game. It's extremely hard to do from a mental battle, especially when offensively. I mean, Kris Dunn's not a guy that has to create a bunch of advantages offensively, but he's a guy who is a really smart offensive player. He creates a ton of connective stuff offensively, chains together a ton with the cutting, with the transition push aheads too. So mentally, just on both sides of the floor, he doesn't really get a break. And just the ability to actually just fully concentrate on one task is one trait of these high-level perimeter defenders, which is just so fascinating to me. And I think Kris Dunn hopefully could get some old defensive noise this season too, just with the amount of time that he actually plays for Los Angeles. And he really forced Luka into a real poor mid-game stretch of this one. Just offensive shot settling at the highest level. I know Luka got hot, so he wanted to test out the waters a little bit more. But in terms of just denying the drive and dribble penetration, being physical but also being relatively disciplined with your hands, especially when Luka tries to bait those looks as well, making him uncomfortable when he gets to that midsection. He tries to take those short push shots, which usually are his bread and butter, just being physical as well and making him just anxious. It's hard to make guys like Luka and SGA, and Cade Cunningham, these big ball handlers anxious whatsoever, but the more activity that you kind of provide to them, again, at their base, because Luka can shoot over the top over Kris Dunn, so the more you can actually disrupt them in places that you can control, that'll give you your best success as a defender. And Kris Dunn just proved that once again. Obviously, Luka got the better of him towards the end. That's what Luka does. Like when you're making him like mix and match around a ball screen, that last one where Luka was talking the trash after the three that he made. I mean, you're forcing Luka into pretty tough looks towards the end of the game. And obviously, with the way refs call the NBA these days, like he got caught. I think he brushed Luka's backside as well as he got into one little quick push-up, which was a quick rolling in and one. But overall, Kris Dunn, exceptional game as well. I think he had like 8 assists and he would have had something like 7 rebounds in this one too. And he's just a hyper-mature offensive player as well. Never deviates out of the game plan of what he's supposed to do and never deviates out of his strengths. Absolutely love watching Kris Dunn, one of my favorite players to watch. Pretty aggressive player too. Like, you wouldn't want to get into a fight with him or get on his bad side. And I know Luka started doing that at the 5-minute mark in the fourth quarter. I guarantee you, if that barking job started a bit earlier, probably could have gotten a bit of like a physical confrontation that would have brewed between the two guys. The last point, though, that I want to hit for the Clippers for this one was Bennedict Mathurin's extra scoring fuel in this one. Not so much, like, obviously I think he ended up with 38 points yesterday. Obviously, back-to-back, I think he would have ended up with like 24 or something in this game off the bench. So in terms of the actual scoring fuel that he's providing, it is extremely valuable, obviously, especially when Kawhi goes out. But in terms of the Clippers being just an excellent transition-focused team, and in terms of focusing on those transition principles, Bennedict Mathurin has been pretty great. And he is a brutal force who is aggressive in the open court. He uses his off-arm so much to the point that he actually just generally just gets calls. NBA refs don't tend to call that an offensive call. I know Jackson Hayes was kind of barking for it to the refs after a few calls that really went against them. But Bennedict Mathurin, just in the air, he's so brutally physical and aggressive. It's not even that he's that dynamic vertically in the air, like as an aerial athlete, but it's more just how powerful he is and how much he actually embraces contact, which is just so great for what the Clippers might want, actually, especially with the Kawhi Leonard, who is more jump shot focused in general. Like, Kawhi doesn't get to the rim a ton. Bennedict Mathurin can actually fuel that, especially while Darius Garland's out of the unit as well. He draws more contacts, and he might be one of the best foul drawers in the NBA, just point blank. And he's proving that in these few games that he's had with Los Angeles at the moment. And obviously the limitations down the stretch were pretty vivid. And this is why this guy is a general, like, hyper-focused six-man, a high-level six-man type of prospect. He's probably not someone that's going to be a star in this league. But in terms of how he physically provides that imprint on the game, like, that is pretty special. And Los Angeles will need that at some point in the season. They win games defensively and they can rely on a lot of Kawhi Leonard stuff, but when they stagger those minutes between the two while Garland's out, it's going to be really valuable to have a downhill athlete like that who can actually milk the margins and milk your transition principles the way that he's proved he can at this point in time. Now, just flipping on to the Lakers, the thing is that I just don't have much negative to say about the Clippers from this game. Again, most of it is literally just a firepower disadvantage at this point in time against a team like this, especially when Kawhi exits as well. Not much to say. John Collins as well, like, he had to exit the game too, so no real stress if you're a Clippers fan. Only really positive notes to take out just of the identity and the culture that is actually set there at this point in time, where Kawhi actually exits and you actually nearly end up winning a game against three guys who could actually be All-NBA level players on any night. Just absolutely incredible in terms of an effort from my perspective. But moving on to the Lakers. Luka's effort and aggression, like, it tends to fade and ebb and flow throughout games a lot this regular season. But in terms of first quarters, I mean, the actual amount of aggressiveness that he actually provides in those first terms, it's absolutely surreal. 17 points, 4 threes, just hunting whatever switch with as much comfort as he wants. And obviously he's more conditioned than he was last year. But I do think that is actually subtly still something that Luka does need to work on as we do look towards, the postseason coming up. We know defensively he'll never be able to put as much effort towards that end of the floor. But in terms of conditioning to be able to provide like a full aggressive downhill mindset throughout 48 minutes, where the shot settling is confined much more than it has been this season. Like, this dude takes like 11 threes a game. And it's not like he's making them at like a super high level. I know today's game, he makes 8 threes. A bit of a, not something that we typically see all the time, but I just think Luka needs to focus more on just the full 48-minute effort and aggression, especially in their transition as well. Like, and defensively, this is a lot of stuff I think Luka can work on it, and if he can focus on the conditioning or just make more of an emphasis of getting downhill and continually setting the tone through your second and third quarters. Because we know the first quarter and the fourth quarter is when Luka technically always picks it up. And that's why he has the strength in his frame to be able to still generate good lift on his looks, be able to end up barreling through defenders through fourth quarters too, because he is strong. Try and use that strength maybe towards the midsection of games, and the Lakers wouldn't find themselves in so many clutch situations when you are making these lazy reads or you are just shot settling on like these spins, step back threes continually over great defenders as well. That's my only thing with LA from what we saw today. And that kind of just bodes towards their entire offensive selection through midsections of the game. Defensive lulls and lapses, we see that all throughout this Lakers team throughout the season, but they generally tend to pick it up late thirds and in fourth quarters, especially with those units that are captained by LeBron. And like, you know, with Reaves on the floor too, and those non-Luka minutes in the second half, they tend to really pick up the defensive like aggression. So it's mainly the offensive selection that I think they can actually control in the midsection of games. Because the point is, this team is supposed to be overpowered offensively, and they just haven't been all that amazing. But in saying that, I think Austin, LeBron, and Luka have only played 150 minutes on the floor together this season. So obviously, the more time that we get to see all three of these guys, and you know, we know Reaves and Luka today were just on a shot-making clinic overall. We know how talented Reaves can be actually slotting into an off-ball role too. I mean, Reaves is a guy with a role player background as well, which means he has had those years where he has to focus on things like closeout attacking, spot-up shooting as well, just creating off the catch specifically. And then when you mix that with all the on-ball progression that he's had over the years as well, defensively, again, this guy just works hard. He's not a bad defender by any means. He has athletic limitations, but Austin Reaves might be one of my favorite players to watch in the NBA. And a game like today with Luka and Reaves, like they just fully outdueled the amount of talented firepower that the Clippers could offer with Kawhi, and then Kawhi going out as well. Kawhi just couldn't yet match that. And then in the clutch situation as well, we saw that fully take off between that star duo there. The other point I wanted to make for LA, just Rob Pelinka obviously cops a lot of crap, but in terms of the free agency signings that he made last year, I don't think he's actually made a better group of free agency signings in a long time. Maybe since 2020. Because bringing in a guy like Marcus Smart has been an absolute godsend for the Lakers. LaRavia has been absolutely pivotal for them. And getting DeAndre Ayton for cheap, like I know we'll have our problems with DeAndre Ayton, but he's a very talented offensive player when we are talking about a role player concept. And obviously he can have issues defensively. I think he came up to the level significantly against Ben Mather and forced him to drive, and he got the N1 on Luka as well. He can have defensive lulls. You know, why are you stepping up on Ben Mather and you'd rather him take a spot-up look as well than give him what he really wants, a downhill angle? But the point is, like, these free agency signings have been extremely pivotal, and like the Luke Kennard trade seems to be a massive hit on the margins too. So in terms of making these small moves with, like, you know, he has been restricted with what he's wanted to do. He hasn't had to trade Austin Reaves at all. He hasn't wanted to trade LeBron. In terms of just making moves on the margins on the roster, he's actually done a pretty great job. And today, none of those role players were better than Marcus Smart, obviously. And the biggest part that Marcus Smart played in this game was fully cooling down the Kawhi scorcher. Kawhi was absolutely toying with the Lakers, especially in the second quarter, third quarter. He was having his way again, face-up jumpers, a few transition buckets again too. And Marcus Smart obviously struggled a little bit in that first half, containing Kawhi and not being as disciplined, but also just the defensive motor laterally, just pressuring him at the hip, generally just ball pressure, wasn't as significant as it ended up being in the fourth quarter, where Kawhi ended up having to tap out at the 5-minute mark at clutch time. But I think he restricted him to just 3 points in the fourth quarter. And he was absolutely amazing, just denying positioning. So when we talk about Kawhi Leonard and his ability to reduce the variance of his jump shooting, the biggest part of that is actually his ability to actually fight for positioning off the ball and on the ball. But a guy like Marcus Smart, as stocky and as strong and as disciplined, as strong as his base and his footwork is, it's really hard to pressure and fight for that significant positioning, footwork, fight for that balance. And that's what Marcus Smart did exceptionally well when he was staying attached to the hip today in this game. That's why Kawhi Leonard didn't have anywhere near the same comfort, and they were more hesitant on those switches again. But Marcus Smart was absolutely enormous. And then talk about late game shot making. Like, he didn't take a shot until the fourth quarter. He makes a catch and shoot three from LeBron, and I think the next offensive possession, LeBron tacks the closeout in the corner, rips through, kicks the skip pass out, and then Marcus Smart has the balls to take more or less like a flailing three that ended up being an N1-2 with his foot on the line. Absolutely pivotal shots for their confidence and for their momentum. Just Marcus Smart has been absolutely terrific for the Lakers. Even things like Marcus Smart isn't the most dynamic athlete, especially right now, by any means. But he understands how to stick to principles. Again, like we talk about Kris Dunn, staying within your strengths. But Marcus Smart's a guy, like, obviously, when you're playing with Luka and Austin Reaves and this age of a LeBron James, man, transition pressure that you force isn't all that much compared to these other teams like your OKCs, like your Detroits, and like your Indianas from last year, for say, even like your Miamis and like Toronto, obviously. But all these teams that burst out in the fast break because of the array of guys that they can throw out there that are high motor, have long strides as well, just dynamic athletes that can excel in the open court. The Lakers don't do that as much, but a guy like Marcus Smart, he pushes pace whenever he can at any point in time, and he just works his ass off. The ultimate workhorse of the NBA of the past few years, in my opinion. And for the Lakers, he was absolutely enormous today. But obviously the storyline for the Lakers was the eventual firepower advantage that eventuated mostly in that crunch time when Kawhi left, and the Clippers were relying on their defense, and then Ben Mathurin and Brook Lopez post-ups to bail them out. Didn't work, but obviously with the Kawhi injury, we saw this LA derby kind of get tarnished a little bit. But in saying that, there is a lot to believe in with this Lakers team, with literally just their clutch time execution. When we think about postseason games, there are a lot less blowouts. There's a lot less games that are decided by 10 points or more. The Lakers' ability to actually just fully execute at the highest level with guys that are fully sustainable offensive creators for the full 48 minutes towards the end of games, literally because of how strong and methodical and exceptional they are, like manning ball pressure and pace. This team actually could knock off a team, and I see no reason why the Lakers can't make a second round if they do run into the right team. If they run into a Denver, like, Denver's my second favorite contender right now. I have no reason why LA don't have some advantages that would let them excel in that, like we've seen recently in the past few years since Luka's arrived in LA. And just fun game to watch today, obviously. I have a ton of respect for what the Clippers have been able to do with all the roster changes as well, but just the identity that they've been able to throw out there. Like guys like Kobe Sanders, Niederhauser out there today. Derek Jones Jr. working his ass off, doing as much as he can. Jordan Miller as well. He's turned into a pretty nice shot maker. Can be aggressive defensively from time to time. This has been a really fun game to watch. Really fun season series to watch between the Clippers and the Lakers as well. And we have a lot more to look forward to as we end the All-Star break. And that's all I had for today. I appreciate you guys for listening as well. Just, again, subscribe on the YouTube. Check us out on all the socials, Instagram, TikTok, again, YouTube Shorts as well, if that's what you vibe with as well. Appreciate you guys for listening, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.